The sun dipped low over Vosloorus on Sunday, 26 October 2014, turning the township sky into a haze of orange and purple. On Kutulwanong Street, section BB2, the Kumalo household buzzed with the kind of ordinary warmth found on a weekend evening. Laughter, chatter, the smell of home-cooked food. No one inside the small house could have imagined how the night would end. Inside the house, Senzo Meyiwa, the national team's captain and Orlando Pirates goalkeeper, whose booming laugh filled the room. Kelly Kumalo, his girlfriend, a rising pop star. Zandi Kumalo, Kelly's younger sister. Longwe Twala, Zandi's boyfriend, the son of music producer Chico Twala. Gladness Kumalo, Kelly's mother, the matriarch of the home. And Tumalo Madlala, Senzo's childhood friend from Umlazi, sitting close to him. The evening felt relaxed, but under the surface, tensions simmered. Witnesses would later hint at arguments. Some claimed Kelly and Senzo were fighting about his marriage to Mandisa Mkhize. Others whispered about money, drugs, and love triangle that involved Longwe Twala and Zandi Kumalo. Then, just after 8 p.m., the ordinary turned into chaos. The door burst open. Two men pushed their way in. One carried a 9mm pistol, the other a small revolver. Witnesses screamed. One shouted. The room erupted in panic. Zandi clutched at Longwe. Kelly screamed. Tumalo ran to the bedroom. Senzo stood, instinctively trying to shield Kelly. A scuffle broke out. According to some testimonies, Longwe bolted out of the house, fleeing into the night. Others say he fought before running. In the tight space of the living room, someone grabbed at the gunman's arm. The pistol went off, a deafening crack that silenced the room. Senzo staggered. A single bullet had struck him in the chest, while others watched as he fell. Blood soaked through Senzo's white t-shirt. The gunman fled into the night, vanishing into the labyrinth of Vosloorus streets. Chaos followed. Instead of waiting for an ambulance, Senzo's friends bundled him into Kelly's BMW X6. But before that, instead of them calling the police or an ambulance, they called Chico Twala, the father of Longwe. They sped through township roads, horns blaring, lights flashing, racing towards Bocholong Hospital. Inside the emergency ward, doctors fought to save him, but the bullet had torn through his lung. At 8:50 p.m., doctors pronounced Senzo Robert Meyiwa dead. Word spread like wildfire. Outside the hospital, fans, neighbors, and journalists gathered. Back at Kutulwanong Street, police sealed off the Kumalo home with yellow tape. Neighbors whispered, some saying they heard shouting before the gunshot, others convinced it was just another robbery in a crime-riddled township. But the crime scene was chaotic. Evidence trampled, statements inconsistent. Officers argued in the yard. That very night, seeds of confusion were planted. Was this a botched robbery, or was Senzo killed by someone inside the house? As time goes, investigators themselves were divided.
Were demanding cell phones, again highlighting the pervasiveness of crime in South Africa.
Senzo tried to hide Kelly's phone under the sofa. They shot him.
Neighbor Leslie Ngache was watching television when he heard a commotion.
We heard a gunshot. Then I started seeing that something is happening.
Ngache's son Lukanya was among the first on the scene.
It was a sad moment because he was very injured, and by the time we got there to try and help him to put him in the car, he was looking very powerless and hurt. So we put him in the car and then they drove to the hospital. Then we got a phone call later that he had passed out. Yeah.
It's left a community reeling.
The years dragged on after 26 October 2014. South Africans demanded justice, but the investigation limped. By 2019, Senzo's father, Sam Meyiwa, died without answers, insisting until his last breath that his son's killers were known and being protected. Then, a break. Whispers in the underworld began to surface. The night Senzo was killed, men were seen sprinting back to the Vosloorus hostel, weapons in hand. According to testimony later heard in court, 2 of the accused returned to the hostel carrying guns, sweating and panicked. Others asked no questions. In the underworld, silence was survival, but people noticed. Word leaked. The footballer murder had hostile fingerprints on it. 6 years after the murder, the police finally made their move. In a dramatic announcement, 5 men were arrested and charged. Siyabonga Sibiya, Bongani Sandiso Ntanzi, Matobisi Prince, also known as Gadla, meaning the striker, Muzika Wukulelwa Sibiya, and Fisokutle Ntuli, the most feared of them all. Fiso Ntuli was no ordinary suspect. He was a KwaZulu-Natal hitman linked to at least 6 political assassinations, including the 2016 murder of ANC councillor Tami Nyembe. The courtroom shivered when his name was read. In the grey, windowless rooms of Johannesburg's Serious Violent Crimes Unit, interrogators pushed the men. One night in June 2020, investigators questioned Bongani Ntanzi for hours. At first, he denied everything. Then, the pressure cracked him. He signed a statement. He confessed he had been paid 45,000 rand after the killing. Days later, Siyabonga Sibiya admitted he had also received money, 30,000 rand. Both men insisted the money had come through a woman close to Senzo. In court, prosecutor advocate George Baloyi laid it out like puzzle pieces. Phone records showed Ntanzi and Sibiya called each other over 100 times on the day Senzo died. A gun used in a 2013 cash-in-transit heist was forensically linked to the bullet that killed Senzo. Witnesses said accused men had boasted about finishing the goalkeeper job. And then came the bombshell, Kelly Kumalo in the spotlight. Lead investigator Brigadier Bongani Gininda stood before the court in 2022. His words were sharp, painting Kelly Kumalo as the mastermind. She orchestrated the murder. He pointed to cell phone records. Kelly had allegedly called the accused minutes before Senzo was shot. Confessions claimed she had arranged payments. One statement read aloud in March 2024 sent shockwaves. Ntanzi confessed he received 45,000 rand. Sibiya got 30,000 rand. The cash, according to them, came through Kelly Kumalo. Inside the courtroom, Kelly's name hung heavy in the air. She was never charged, prosecutors saying there wasn't direct evidence. But to the public, suspicions hardened. On the dock, the 5 men sat stone-faced. Some stared ahead, others lowered their heads. Still, the trial twisted and turned. Defense lawyers argued the confessions had been coerced. They accused police of torture. But as the trial unfolded, the weight of phone logs, ballistic evidence, and detailed confessions began to box the accused in. And yet, one question remained unanswered. If this was a contract killing, who had truly ordered the hit? And why?
The lead investigator in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial has told the High Court in Pretoria that Kelly Kumalo is the 6th suspect in the soccer star's murder and was due to be charged as far back as 2020. However, while Brigadier Bongani Gininda says he applied for a warrant of arrest, it was not authorized. Meyiwa was shot and killed while at Kumalo's parental home in Vosloorus on Gauteng's East Rand. 5 men are currently on trial at the High Court in Pretoria for the murder of the soccer star.
Currently, we have the 4 standing and sitting before this court, 5 accused persons, and in the statement it says 6 suspects actively participated in the planning and execution. Who is the 6th suspect?
It's Miss Kelly Kumalo, my lord. Remember this statement, I was applying for the warrant of arrest for Miss Kelly Kumalo, so she would have been the 6th suspect. This one, at that time, we already arranged. They'd already made their first appearance. This was November, so I was now moving towards Miss Kelly Kumalo to be added.
Now, while Gininda previously testified that Kumalo was in communication with accused number 5 Fisokutle Ntuli, he told the court there's a communication link between the singer and alleged shooter accused number 3 Mtobisi Mncube.
There was a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Kumalo. That's the information that it did not disclose to court, according to him. I just want to follow that statement.
Are you able to explain, sir? Yes, my lord. What I can explain is that the statement that I saw, and if it needs be, we can get to it and I can read it verbatim. There is the statement of Kenneth Stein links accused 3 with Miss Kelly Kumalo. That's the essence of it. As to how we put his terms, that's the part that I don't want to misquote him. But what is clear is that there's a link with Miss Kelly Kumalo and accused 3.
Now, meanwhile, the same picture of money in a transparent bag found on Kumalo Ncube's phone downloads was also found on Longethwala's phone. Defense lawyer Sipho Ramasipele asked if either were questioned on this.
From the downloads of accused number 3, the downloads of Longethwala, and the downloads of Kelly Kumalo, that photo is a common denominator Is that correct?
That is correct, my lord.
As a lead investigator in this case, did you present and confront Kelly Khumalo about that photo and seek an explanation from her?
No, I did not, my lord. Remember the court, I've said, my lord, she was a person that we were intending to charge together with this accused. So the time when I would have approached her and obviously put these assertions would have been when I went to take a warning statement and process accordingly. There was enough, in my view, based on what we had, to apply for the warrant of arrest. And obviously, as the process, that's a normal process. Before a person appears, we'd have sat down with that person, interviewed that person, and these assertions would have been put, my lord. So at that stage, I didn't, but it was evidence that was important for me to mention in pursuance of the J50, in other words, the authorization from the NPA to be granted.
During the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial at the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, a key witness, Constable Skhumbuzo Zungu, faced intense scrutiny from the defense over his conduct on the night of 26th of October 2014. Zungu had earlier testified that he was at his nephew Sfiso Zungu's hostel room in Vosloorus when three of the accused, Muzi Sibia, Bongani Sandiso Ntanzi and Mtobisi, burst in carrying firearms, appearing agitated. He claimed that Muzi and Mtobisi handed their guns to Sfiso, while Ntanzi entered unarmed. This account suggested that the men had returned from the scene shortly after the shooting of Senzo. However, defense advocate Zandile Mshololo aggressively challenged Zungu, accusing him of failing in his duty as a police officer. Zungu defended himself, saying he did not have enough certainty at the time to make arrests. In a related twist, Constable Skhumbuzo Zungu's father, Absalom Zungu, publicly rejected claims that he had given a sworn statement implicating the same suspects. Absalom told reporters that in 2019, the public believed he had provided crucial evidence to lead investigator Brigadier Bongani Gininda, supposedly confirming his son's version of events. But Absalom flatly denied ever giving any statement. He accused his son and Brigadier Gininda of lying under oath and placing his life at risk. Absalom further claimed Gininda had attempted to lure him to a remote farm, alone, allegedly to make him sign a statement, an invitation he refused out of fear. On 8th July 2025, he filed a report at the Newcastle police station, declaring that if anything were to happen to him, Gininda and his son should be held responsible.
Manje sacela ukuthi sidibane endaweni ethile ngifona nginoGininda la ngicela ukuthi sihlangane lapha ngicela ukuthi baba ungatsheni umuntu ukuthi uyabe ngiyakutshela phela yonke leze yakhudumeza aba ungatsheni umuntu ukuthi uyabe ungahambi futhi nomunye uze wedwa.
So lokho kwenzeka emva kokuba igama lakho selimenyeziwe vele enkantolo
lingakamenyezwa nje uye so emva kuba ethula ubufakazi balokho ayiwethula ubufakazi
umfana noma uGininda
ngesikhathi wethula ulo iphoyisa umfana uyena ke lona ke ongitshela ukuthi uthe efonini uthi abantu ababeseduze kwambaze balalela bathi hawu ngingezi ngize ngedwa ngingasho futhi ukuthi ngiyaphi baqala ke nabantu bathi asobha uma nje ke yikho ngithi mina uhamba nobani uthi uhamba unoGininda ngoba efona nje ngaqala lapho ke ngabaqhelisa endli kimi nje wena lo mfana ngaqala lapho ke manje ungasondela eduze kwakhe mase ukukhona ngitshena khona.
Nearly a decade after that fatal night in Vosloorus, the Senzo Meyiwa murder case has become more than just a courtroom battle. It has turned into a chilling saga of silence, suspicion, and death. Former defense lawyer advocate Tefo publicly warned that at least 11 people connected to the case were dead, among them potential witnesses, investigating officers, and informants. Their deaths were rarely followed by answers. Instead, they deepened the belief that someone or something was working to ensure the full story never came out. Two examples shook the nation. In May 2022, News 24 reported that the former head of detectives in Gauteng, Brigadier Philani Ndlovu, who had been a witness in the trial, died unexpectedly. His death raised eyebrows, but no official link was made to the case. Then, in November 2023, 19 months later, Daily Sun reported another shocking development. The widow of Brigadier Pelani and Lovu, involved in the investigation, was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. No suspects were arrested. Each unexplained death created a new layer of fear. Were these coincidences or calculated erasures? Meanwhile, Senzo's family continued to suffer in silence. His father, Senzo Meyiwa, died in 2019, never seeing justice for his son. The real question remains unanswered. Was Senzo Meyiwa killed by criminals or buried by a system that fears the truth? Until that question is answered, the trial continues not only in court, but in the conscience of a nation.